Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it last.
Commitment. A lot of times people say that men shy away from it, but I wonder if females do that as well. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I have with me to unpack this whole idea of commitment and how is commitment stronger than love. I have with me Debbie Ausburn. She's an author, and that's what we're going to be unpacking this time around. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the conversation.
To just make sure that there is a context. If you had, well, define the word commitment.
In the way that I use it in discussing my experiences being a foster parent and a step parent, a commitment is the sense of saying, I'm going to be here, I'm going to follow through on this, and I'm going to be a part of whatever solution you can accept and work on in your life.
Okay. Okay. How then is that stronger than love?
Well, I think particularly when you're coming into a situation as a foster parent or a step parent, you're joining someone else's story halfway through, and you
Hmm.
weren't there for the a lot of the formative parts of what changed them, and by definition, particularly if you're a foster parent, but even
Mm-hmm.
if you're a step parent, you're joining the life of a child who has lost an intact biological family, and so there's some level of trauma there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with trauma responses that make kids unlovable,
Mm-hmm.
unlikable
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And if all we're looking at is how much we love or like this kid, then we're we're going to be out of there pretty soon. Even with biological kids, they
Mm-hmm.
hit
Mm-hmm.
puberty, and it's like, who is this person? What have you done with my child?
Hmm.
And they can be very hard to like, or even love sometimes. So that's why I say making a commitment is something that we say to ourselves, and a decision we make that does not depend on being reciprocated. It doesn't depend on the kid caring about us or loving
Mm-hmm.
us. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, we have healthy boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
insist on respect and
Mm-hmm.
and all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't change the fact that we're here, and we have to prove it um, by being there. My youngest stepson, when I first got married, he was always very concerned that our marriage was going to break up, and all the
Mm.
marriages he had ever seen had broken up.
Wow.
So um, I as of course, as the years went along, his anxiety lessened, and I finally said to him, when he was in his early 20s, I think after we'd been married about 10 or so years, I asked him, when was it and why was it that he quit worrying about that?
Hmm.
And he stopped and thought for a minute and said, well, you're still here. And I realized then it wasn't anything I had said. It wasn't any of my brilliant statements that reminded him or made him
Mm-hmm.
think that. It,
Mm-hmm.
it was just the fact that I was still there. And that's what we have to do for these kids, is we just have to keep being there. And that can be really incredibly difficult and incredibly hard. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to think, what do they need? I may not like
Yeah.
them. I
Yeah.
may not want to have anything to do with them right at this moment, but what do they need that I can provide? And sometimes, of course, the answer is I can't provide what they need.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something that we can give them, whether it's a sense of I still love you. I still care about you. Yes, that was stupid, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll move on, you know. Um, every kid needs that sense of there is someone who will not give up on them.
Hmm. What you just said, do you think that can transcend to other relationships, or do you think the whole idea that, commitment is stronger than love, do you think that can transcend other types of relationships, or specifically in this context of a foster and a step parent?
Oh, I think it can transcend into adult relationships. The main difference is that with adult relationships, there does need to be some level of equality and reciprocity.
Okay. Okay.
Kids don't have, we just understand they don't have the ability to be committed or have adult
Mm-hmm.
relationships. There's
Mm-hmm.
always inequality there. But with adults, my husband is an adult and there's some reciprocity, but we do have a commitment. Um, every person who's been married has hit those moments of thinking, why the heck did I do this? And I'm not
Mm,
sure this is a good idea, but I said I'm going to do it, so we'll look at this again tomorrow, you know? And
okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
of course, the next day is different and
Mm-hmm.
you get past your disagreements and you build it. But in adult relationships, I you don't need to be a parent to your spouse or to the other person. So
Mm-hmm.
there is more reciprocity that you need and sometimes more boundaries.
Ah, okay.
Again, as part of the healthy adult relationship, you can understand when kids slam doors and kick things and mark on the
Mm-hmm.
walls. That's really unacceptable for an adult, and it's not, anything. There's certain things that you can put up with kids because you're teaching them, whereas
Right.
adults, you don't need the responsibility of raising a spouse. But aside from that, yes, that commitment, that sense of I don't like this person right now. I'm not sure I love them, but
But
yeah, but I'm sticking with this and sticking through this, and we will get through this point. And I'm not giving up. Hi, this is Debbie Osborne here on Making It Last, where we're discussing how to build relationships not only with ourselves, but with other people. We're going to take a moment now and listen to a word from our partners.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-877-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-877-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splint Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplint.com. Splint, the brand you need to succeed.
For all your events such as educational forums, workshops, book launches, weddings, and more, contact Noreen Daly, the ultimate MC and event host. Visit noreendaily.com or follow her on Instagram at Noreen Daily Jam. Noreen Daily, creating long-lasting memories.
Welcome back. This is Debbie Osborne with Making It Last, where we're talking about how to have good relationships, not only with ourselves, but with other people. And in this case, we're discussing today how to help raise other people's children.
How easy is it to get to that point? Maybe easy is not the word, but for want of a better, how easy to get to that point in a relationship where you say, you know something, no matter what, I am in this for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. How easy?
Well, it's always easy to start out that way when it's
Oh.
very rosy and you're still in the honeymoon phase.
Mm-hmm.
When reality hits, it is when it gets very challenging. For me and my husband, we had one of my foster kids hit a really bad patch, and we inherited that child's child. We ended up with a foster grandchild for a few
Mm-hmm.
years, and that was a serious test of our marriage. It was a really tough time
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had to dig down and say, okay, first of all, our marriage is our highest priority. And I'm a big believer that marriage is if as I remember saying to one of my kids one time, look, don't make me choose between my relationship with you and my marriage, because I will choose my marriage. That has the priority. And I believe that for many things. And one reason is our kids need to see a marriage stick together. It's what they need
Mm-hmm.
partly. And then
Mm-hmm.
secondly, if I do my job right, this kid's going to be out of the house, and I would like to still have a marriage left in 10 years,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's several reasons for that, but that is part of making that commitment of, and it can be challenging. I do want to emphasize, I am talking about relationships that are safe,
Okay.
that are healthy. I would never tell anyone to stay in an abusive relationship, for example, because that's just not a safe relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
90% of the relationships we're in, you just have to dig down and find ways to stay together and rediscover the reasons that you fell in love with this person and made that commitment in the first place.
Is that what you do?
Yes, yes. And I've learned with when you're raising traumatized kids, there's always challenges, and there's always trauma responses that you have to deal with. Some of which they can't help, some of which they need to learn to be able to
Mm-hmm.
control. And so a lot of that with my marriage, I had to first prioritize my marriage, and then make sure that my husband and I were on the same page. I found um, trauma focused family counselors to be invaluable, because we were both learning from people we respected, whose knowledge we respected about
Mm-hmm.
understanding trauma responses and how to respond. And um, and then just every day finding ways to connect with each other and not let the rush of day-to-day life and taking care of these
Mm-hmm.
kids make us lose contact with each other.
For those, and I love the fact that you mentioned the whole idea of counseling and therapy, because I really think we need to normalize that, because there's still, a negative stigma attached to it. For those who might not then have that easy access to therapy, what would be your recommendation?
I would say use the internet.
Okay.
There's lists, there's Facebook groups for step parenting. Not all of the advice is great,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still learning from people who have been through it. What you're looking for is expertise,
Okay.
and people who know what they're talking about. And that's what we found again with the trauma focused therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But there are lots of people, good trauma focused counselors who have blogs
Okay.
out
Okay.
there that you can learn from. So there's a lot of different sources of people who have lived with raised kids who suffered from trauma, and marriages that have been affected by that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And you just learn from all the sources you can find.
Okay. As we're wrapping up, yes, the the focus went on how is commitment stronger than love. But in all of this, how how is love then factored in all of this? Even though yes, we focus on commitment throughout the conversation, but for you, I don't want us to leave without then,
Saying that.
mentioning that love is an important part of the equation as well.
It is, and I think actually, love follows commitment.
Okay.
It's a result of it. Sometimes it's the impetus for the commitment,
Ah,
but
okay.
I have always found that, the two are intertwined.
Okay.
The more committed, the more you pay attention to, the more you focus on this person, the more you come to develop that love and concern and caring. It's years
Mhm.
ago, my grandmother said many things that I did not like hearing when I was a child, but I remember
Mhm.
I remember
Mhm.
talking about someone that I had to put up with and I didn't like, and I was saying, how do I work with this person that I don't like?
Mhm.
And my grandmother said, act like you do, and eventually you will. And I didn't know what she meant at the time, but
That's profound.
with commitment, you
Mhm.
act like
Mhm.
you love this
Mhm.
person because you
Yes.
give the commitment,
Mhm.
and the love follows the commitment.
Love it. Love it. That's an excellent note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing, Debbie.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it